Okay, so I have a lot of leftover yarn from various projects and I really don't want to waste them. I've been trying to come up with ways to use them, and one morning I woke up and immediately thought, parti-color. I tend to come up with all my ideas like that moment where you wake up, like where you're not quite awake. What's that about? Parti-colored clothing was mainly used in the Middle Ages on from what I could tell, usually kirtles and hose? It's hose. I think it's just hose. However, I didn't really feel like doing a fully medieval inspired project. So one of my favorite details in history is this Renaissance neckline where it was higher at the center front than at like the side bust area. And so I thought, why not take these two separate ideas and just smush them together so that I'll like it more. I've stated before that on all of my historically inspired projects, I really do like them to work in my very modern closet. So I think mixing those two designs together will really just mwah. So let's get started. These are the two yarns that we are using. They are both 3s, I believe. My first problem that I see myself running into is I want to kind of emulate that bump, that lovely lady hump, that thing at the top that goes like this and it kind of curves. There's probably a term for it and I just can't think of it right now. I am a little confused about how I'm going to get this done with crochet. So we're definitely gonna need to do a little bit of experimenting. I'm thinking I might do it like the leaf that I did a few weeks ago. I don't know, I'm a little confused. We're experimenting. Let's get to it. So I am 3/4 of the way finished with the front of this bodice, and I just kind of wanted to tell you what I've been doing and how I've been constructing it, just in case you wanted to do something similar and wanted to just get an idea of what I did. It might not be that helpful, but let me just give you a general idea. Let me get seated. This is my incomplete half, this is my completed half, and let me just give you the basics of what I did. So at the very beginning, after doing however many chain stitches I needed, I know by this point how many I'll need to fit my body, but if you've never done that before, I would highly recommend finding a piece of clothing that you like the fit of and trying to estimate how many stitches you'll need and just putting your stitches up against that piece of clothing to see if they look similar, because crochet will stretch a little bit. So you don't have to be too precise, but relatively precise. So for this first third, for my bust area, in order to get this incline here, there are alternating rows. The first type of row of 2 for this first third here is to break it into thirds this way. So this will be half double crochets, this third will be single crochets, and this third will be slip stitching. But, so you're stitching here, you're stitching this way, and then coming back, it would be single crochets halfway down, and then half double crochets the other half. And so you'll go back and forth alternating between those 2 rows. And you do that until you're roundabouts done with your bust, once you're getting towards your waist. So for the last, I don't know, 3 to 6 rows here, every other row I would decrease by 2 to 4 stitches. And so once you get to that and you're down about to where your waist would be, you're going to change what you're doing and you're going to break it into this 2/3 is a single crochet and this third is a slip stitch. But you're still going to alternate, but now your alternating stitch, or your alternating row rather, is going to be just single crochet. So this way, single crochet to slip stitch, and then back is just single crochet.
I also did towards the last inch just single crochets, so no alternating rows, and I forgot to mention that. Okay, back to my original explanation.
And then once you get down here to do this drastic decrease right here. So when I got to the point that I knew I wanted this to come down and this kind of flap to start, or tab, I guess, is that the way to say it? This is kind of a tab. I came back this way and I stopped about halfway, maybe a little bit more than halfway. And then I would go back and forth and back and forth. But on these rows, right here, when you get to the end, you don't go back into the first stitch, because you know how usually when you do rows, you finish and then you do an extra chain and then you come back, right, to build. Once you chain, you don't come back into this first stitch. You go into the second stitch away. And you keep doing that and you'll get a decrease. And if it's not drastic enough, you can also decrease around this area, like 2, 3, 4, 5 stitches in. And then once you like to the amount that you have it down by, then it's done right here. So that's probably incredibly confusing, but that is what I've been doing. Now that I've explained that incredibly, can I not speak? Now that I've done an incredibly bad job at explaining this to you, I'm gonna get back to work. Now that the front is well on the way, words today are hard. Now that the front is well on its way, I've started on the back, and I want to make this back pretty similar to the back I did on my last project, which was my Elizabeth Bennet inspired vest skirt combo. I really liked the back on that, except for the mistakes I made. So we're gonna try not to make those mistakes again. We're gonna do it slightly differently. I am going to do those like C shape at the shoulder or at the back, like where the shoulder blades are. I think that looked really pretty, but I am going to change up how I do the back piece a little bit. I'm gonna keep that the same, but at the bottom, I think I'm going to create just 2 rectangles that I'm going to attach to those front pieces. So instead of being 2 pieces, the back I think is going to be 4 pieces, 2 squares and then 2 C's. And I think that will make it fit a little bit better than it did the last time. Fingers crossed, hopes and prayers, good thoughts. Let's go. The back pieces are done and the entire bodice is finished. Yay! I did basically the same technique I did on my last project, where I did an extreme increase and decrease only on the side that goes towards the shoulder, and the center back remains straight. As I was putting all these pieces together, I quickly realized that doing it my normal way of just doing single crochets to put 2 pieces together was looking pretty bad on the blue side, because I was doing it all with brown because I have much more brown yarn than blue yarn. So I ended up doing just a very small but strong back stitching, and that's seeming to work really well. Then I made the straps, and I really wanted the straps to come underneath my arm, which is what it looks like in those Renaissance portraits. We're not going really historically accurate here, we're going more historically inspired. So I put the bodice on and I marked where the straps should go. I made the straps pretty wide. I made that mistake on my last project where it was just, they were just a little too thin to look right for the piece, and then connected those to the bodice where I had pinned. Now I've started working on the sleeves. The brown sleeve is done, but I only have this much yarn left for the blue sleeve. I'm really scared that this isn't gonna be enough, because the sleeves are taking a lot longer than any other part of this project, which means it's using a lot more yarn, and I'm just scared that I'm gonna run out of yarn. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm going to break the blue sleeve half and half. It's going to be a half brown sleeve from like the elbow to the wrist, and then the rest of it will be blue. And at first I was a little sad about that. I wanted the symmetry, but then I thought maybe the asymmetry would actually make this look more modern. So now I'm actually excited about it. I think it's gonna look really good. So I'll get to that, and then this project will be done. So excited. Okay, so I forgot to tell you something. Remember how earlier I kind of offhandedly mentioned that if you don't know how something should fit you, you should use a piece of clothing that you already own as a guide? That's what I'm doing now. Ta-da! I know what sleeves should look like, but crochet, sometimes I always just want to double check myself. I'm just not 100% confident that I would be able to make a sleeve without a guide. So I really like how these sleeves fit me on this jacket, so I'm using it. But how this fits me is that it naturally kind of drops off my shoulder a little bit. So if we were to scooch it up to where it belongs, right at my shoulder, it's a little too short. I'm gonna lengthen my sleeves just a couple of inches just to make up for that fact, but other than that, I think this is a pretty perfect guide. So now we can go on to doing the sleeves. Howdy. This might be one of my favorite things that I have ever made. I love it. The bodice was surprisingly quick to make. Like it felt like it took no time. The sleeves, a different story, but it's on my bucket list to one day go to a Ren fair, and I am set if I ever want to do that. And also if I ever just want to be extra, those sleeves just sell it. So it was all worth it in my head. I am so impressed by how well this neckline turned out. I mean, I just love when something works out just perfectly. I feel like that doesn't happen a lot when I like craft and sew. There's always something that's just a little off, but this one, I also love the back. I feel kind of like 90s looking almost. I don't quite know why, but that's the vibes it gives me. This thing is also like molded to my body. I don't have an extra inch of room, but it feels kind of like when you like break a corset in and you've been wearing it for a while, that kind of molded to your body feel. That's what this feels like. I'm really comfortable. The sleeves aren't perfect either, but I still like them. One's a little shorter than the other, but that's fine. That is going to be it for me this week. If you like this kind of historically inspired, but kind of works in a modern closet thing that I do, make sure to like and subscribe so that you can see more from me. Thank you so much for sticking around, and I hope to see you back here next time. Bye.